welcome to Season 3, Episode 51 of One Man's Opinion. Today I am reviewing Classic Stage Company's off-Broadway production of I Can Get It For You Wholesale, with book by Jerome Weidman, based on his novel, music and lyrics by Harold Rome, with book revisions by Jerome Weidman's son, John Weidman. It is directed by Trip Cullman, choreographed by Ellenore Scott, and running through December 17th at the Lynn F. Angelson Theater at 136 East 13th Street in New York. While you're listening to this review, you think, Tim, I'd love to support your work. I encourage you to keep doing this. Well, thank you. And you know how you can support my work? Come and visit my Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can pay for the inevitable expenses that come with reviewing theater, and maybe one day I can make enough money to do this all on its own. I'll leave a link in the description. Classic Stage Company's production of I Can Get It For You Wholesale is superb, but in this already cynical world, it may not be for the palates of every theatergoer. This is ironic, I think, considering that the original production opened in 1962 in the middle of the John F. Kennedy administration, when hopes were high and esteem in the United States was more or less soaring. The original production ran a modest 300 performances and closed being considered a failure. It did have one shining light come from it, and that was an unknown actress by the name of Barbra Streisand, who made her Broadway debut. I mentioned the timbre of culture in the United States as being important, as our cultural moods tend to influence the success or failure of a show, and I Can Get It For You Wholesale, being such a dour piece about the insatiable lust for money and power, it may hit some audience members a little too close to home, as we see billionaire narcissists celebrated by certain sects of the United States. It's the 1930s, and delivery drivers in the Garment District in New York City are on strike. Harry Bogan, played by Santino Fontana, who is desperate to keep himself and his mom, played by Judy Kuhn, from being evicted in the middle of the Depression, creates his own delivery service to circumvent the strike and begin his upward ascent in the fashion world, using every unscrupulous means possible to rise to power. As his status increases, so does his need to show off his success and wealth, eventually beyond his capability, especially after he meets actress Martha Mills, played by Joy Woods. He begins embezzling money in order to give the perception of wealth on a higher level than he can actually produce. It all turns as friends and colleagues, and eventually the government, begin to question his activities. There have been a few changes to the book by John Weidman, moving some songs around, adding narration to Harry, and maybe most interesting, an introduction that shows Harry getting bullied as a child and then comforted by his mother. It offers an origin of motivation for him, but is it necessary? Maybe. I guess it depends on how much you feel you need backstory for the character. This being the first time I've seen it, I'm taking it in fresh and accept it for what it is. But I appreciate those who may feel like it is unnecessary. Harry isn't a hero, and there doesn't necessarily need to be any kind of emotional bump for empathy for him. That is the real test of the audience with this show. Are you willing to sit and watch a person become more and more horrible for 2.5 hours? Being a musical where the protagonist also happens to be the antagonist, the show needs an exceptional cast led by an excellent director, and thankfully Trip Cullman has directed some potentially award-nominated performances, led by Santino Fontana, who elevates a horrible human being to a complex, charismatic sociopath. His seductive performance as Harry is captivating. We hate everything he does, but like a reality star celebrity who doesn't know when to stop, we can't stop watching him. Supported by heartbreaking performances by Rebecca Naomi Jones, who plays his would-be girlfriend Ruthie Rivkin, and Judy Kuhn, we hope beyond hope that the two of them will come out somewhere ahead and maybe find some form of redemption for Harry. In a show that gets more and more desperate, there is the need for some kind of humor to let the audience breathe from time to time, and that is where we get the superb performance by Julia Lester as Ms. Marmelstein. Yes, her character also takes her own dark dive into the depths of Harry's conniving actions, but she gives us the few moments of levity that we need to laugh and then cheer in defiance against unchecked capitalism in her electric "What Are They Doing to Us Now?", which happens to be in 5/4, which only adds to the anxiety of the number, and it just made me love it even more. The number is the real crux of the musical, as though Harry isn't in the song, It's all about him, coming from a working class and an inability to ascend in the world due to oppression by the elite. The ironic nature of it, though, is also how Harry actually does ascend and becomes what everybody else hates. Adam Chandler Barat is also great as Meyer Bushkin, a naive partner of Harry's who unwittingly gets suckered into some of Harry's plots. There is a beauty of Jewish tradition held in I Can Get It For You Wholesale, as almost every character is Jewish, and their traditions are used as framing elements throughout the show. These are important moments as we get to see Judy Kuhn stand out as she does her best as Mrs. Bogan to keep her son on some sort of moral path. Harold Rome's score brings out those themes of heritage forward into these moments and presents a foundation of what become diametrically opposing poles of wealth versus family and heritage. The design is pretty simple but effective. I do feel that there were some odd lighting choices by Adam Honore that didn't work. There was a moment in the second act, particularly between Ruthie and Harry when they square off and the lighting goes into a magenta and it doesn't work. It overwhelmed the scene's otherwise natural environment and was a bit overly dramatic for me. And Hould-Ward's costumes were great, especially the gradual growth of wealth represented by Harry's fashion. I think I Can Get It For You Wholesale has a chance here to get the love that this musical has yet to receive after 61 years. Theater audiences have matured enough that I think that they could be ready for a musical this cynical, because the musical remains just as salient as it was in 1962. I would love to see it have more legs and go somewhere beyond classic stage. With this superb cast, I think it deserves a second look. But I am only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see I Can Get It For You Wholesale, I'll leave a link where you can get tickets in the description. Also in the description, I'll leave a link to my Patreon page where you can support my show. You can also support me by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be Ivoryton Playhouse's production of $1 Million Quartet Christmas. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.